Sir, do you have any words to say? Anything to say? Mr. Mason, Mr. Mason, you've been convicted of murder. You have anything to say?
I have a lot to say right now, but...
What you? Life is sentence, sir.
I'll leave that to the lawyers.
Guilty as charged. That was the reverberating verdict back in December 2019, when former businessman William Danny Mason and 4 co-defendants were all convicted of murder. They were positively linked to the heinous murder of Pastor Llewelyn Lucas. In that case, forensic evidence, specifically DNA evidence, tied the men to the crime. It was a case where science proved beyond a shadow of doubt that the accused persons were involved in a crime that had been committed. According to Executive Director of the Belize National Forensic Science Service, Jian Cho, forensic science has led to convictions in several other cases.
There have been also convictions on DNA evidence. Every year we get at least a few of them. Last year I think there was some sexual assault cases, some rape cases that got convictions based on DNA evidence. The Danny Mason case got conviction based on DNA evidence.
Because DNA capabilities are still not available in Belize, samples of genetic material in the Mason trial were sent abroad for testing. It was the hope of Anisha Young's family that they could have gotten whatever evidence was found after she went missing in December 2018 and sent them for DNA testing as well. Her uncle, Nelson Tillett, told News 5 previously that they were told the procedures didn't provide for that.
My sister want actually get the swabs there and ship it to America where he could do the forensic there. But she may actually want to bring in a private investigator, but they said that don't work, so.
The most recent person to be reported missing and who remains so is Lake Independence resident, 17-year-old Malachi Hamilton. His aunt told us on Tuesday evening that she is convinced he was killed because he had been threatened. Now the family hopes that the investigation can lead to an arrest.
He was being threatened. His life was in danger.
Yeah.
There are several people who wanted to hurt him.
Why?
Gang affiliated.
And so you feel somebody has harmed him? The family feels so?
Honestly, I'm 100% sure that my nephew is dead. It's just a matter of time in finding his body.
In cases like these, where there will likely be no witness to the crime, it is the forensic evidence that the prosecution lies mostly on to secure a guilty verdict. For the Belize National Forensic Science Service, the work that is being done is critical in achieving this result.
Being able to link a bullet to a particular firearm will prove that the firearm is what was used to shoot the person. What we've been finding and providing to investigators are linkages of recent shootings to past shootings, to show how firearms are used, sometimes in multiple incidents, or how shooting incidents are related to each other. Being able to link body fluids, especially blood, is another way to link accused to the victim or accused to the scene, or sometimes victim to the scene. We also are able, within that same section for serology, that does the blood, the identification of blood. Semen or other body fluids that that are very useful, especially where there's sexual assault involved.
But when the NFSS is unable to, Cho explains that they rely on a U.S. lab for assistance. Whenever Belize sends out samples for DNA testing, it carries a price of $6,000 for the country.
Currently, we ship out our DNA to a laboratory in the USA. So out of all those suspected blood or body fluids samples that come into a laboratory, our serology section first examines them, see if there's body fluid identified, confirmed, and then they take an extract of that or a further sample of that and send it out along with something to compare it to, because we can't just send one sample by itself. You'll be able to extract a profile if it's not decomposed or degraded. But if you don't have a profile to compare it to, a known sample from either the victim or the suspect, then all you have is a unknown DNA profile.
With the addition of new testing capabilities, it is anticipated that the 17 sets of human remains awaiting identification and cause of death will conclude these open cases.
We have about 17 sets of unidentified human skeletal remains that we have in our custody over the years. Recently, we've placed a lot of emphasis on reopening, if you want, those cold cases. Some of them can be homicide cases, some of them might be just missing person cases. And they really just archived unidentified human remains, or what they would call long-term unidentified. We have tried to, with the help of some US-based researchers earlier this year, try to move those cases a little bit more forward, advance them by doing the same bioprofile that I mentioned in forensic anthropology, which we didn't have back in the day when they recovered them. So now we have a set of additional information: sex, age, stature, ancestry, estimated, of course, based on the forensic anthropology expert opinions, and identifying marks if there were signs of arthritis or trauma, if there was chop wounds in some of the bones, etc. So the next step now would be to take those bioprofiles and, using like I said, the police missing person database, which there are hundreds, try to narrow down the individuals that have a higher probability of them being a match. And the next step would be to reach out to those family members to get the DNA samples.
In 2022, the forensic lab sent out around 20 samples for testing. According to Cho, the court cases for most of these files have not yet commenced. Reporting for News 5, I'm Marion Ali.